When this couple got message from their doctor, they couldn't believe what he had told them. When they got the message from their doctor, the rejection was evident on their faces. They couldn't believe what he had told them. After years of oneness and love, everything around them collapsed and they didn't know what to do next. That was the day their doctor told them they were twins. But how did nobody know? Brittany Henley had just emerged from a painful divorce. Aside from the unbearable loneliness and upheaval she went through in her life, she felt that the family she had always wanted was no longer at stake. She had been looking for a fresh start, so she decided to make a big change. Little did she know that her problems were just beginning. By the time Brittany, 29, picked up the pieces and came to terms with her failed marriage, she knew she needed to make some dramatic changes. After nights of soul-searching in the house she had always dreamed of being filled with her children, she finally made a decision. But starting a new life would not be easy. Brittany left her old life behind and moved to Fort Payne, Alabama. She got a retail job in a small retail store. She was optimistic about her decision. She bought a 3-bedroom house that was in dire need of renovation. It was a project she set out to do to distract herself from things. She still wanted a husband and children, but for now, that would all have to wait. The renovations Brittany was planning would cost a lot of money she didn't have. But slowly and surely, she started making a dent on her to-do list, doing most of the repairs herself. Her project kept her busy and focused as she slowly got her life going again. But life had something else in store for her. She got to know Marcus. Brittany met Mark Torres while at work and he immediately asked her out on a date. But she was just coming out of a long-standing relationship, so she turned it down. Although she didn't feel quite ready to date again, she couldn't deny the immediate feeling of attraction. A few months later, Brittany felt like she was ready to try things out as a couple. But they had no idea what difficulties were looming on the road. A year later, and Brittany and Mark were happily married. Brittany finally felt that her life was finally going in the right direction. Even if their last marriage had ended so bitterly, she had learned to love again. And with Mark's help, their renovation project was almost complete. But something was still sorely missing. Brittany knew she wasn't getting any younger and she was still dying to have children. She had been adopted as an only child, so it had always been important to her to have a large family. After all, they lived alone in a 3-room house. It made sense for them to take the next step. They decided it was time to have a baby. Everything seemed like a dream come true until reality knocked. The couple has been doing well so far, but there was something that made Brittany question everything. They wanted to have children, but almost a year later they struggled to get pregnant. It seemed that Mother Nature just wasn't on board. And that had a devastating reason. Brittany knew it was time to get help, so she and Mark decided to see a fertility specialist to investigate the possibility of IVF. The doctor explained the process, and it seemed a viable option, so they decided to take the next steps. But when the doctor ran some routine tests, he discovered something that no one could have prepared for. In vitro fertilization involves examining a sample of DNA from both the male and female to get a profile of the couple's genetic background. This is supposed to protect against hereditary diseases that could be passed on to the baby. Although the DNA is usually not checked for a link between the samples, the lab assistant noticed something that prompted her to double record. The lab assistant who ran Brittany and Mark's tests immediately noticed a similarity between the 2 DNA samples. At first she thought the couple might be closely related, maybe cousins, which sometimes happens. But on closer inspection, the results were much worse. The doctor called Brittany and Mark back to the clinic to deliver the devastating news. Brittany and Mark sat across from the doctor, completely forgetting that what he was about to say would leave them in complete shock. The doctor gently explained that the results of the DNA test suggested Brittany and Mark were indeed dizygote twins. At first Brittany thought it had to be some kind of joke. Brittany sat there, speechless by the news, and then Mark yelled, "You aren't serious. There must be some mistake." Then he burst out laughing. "Of course our birthday is on the same day, but that's just a coincidence," he said and fell silent. But unfortunately it wasn't a mistake for them. When they saw that the doctor was dead serious, the reality began to dawn on them. But how did that happen? The couple's birth parents were killed in a car accident while they were young, and there were no close families willing to adopt them. They were taken into government custody and adopted into separate families, said the doctor, who wishes to remain anonymous. Due to a registration error, no foster family has ever been told that their adoptive child has a twin. And they met by chance. So what now? "I really hope you can find out something," said the doctor. "This is a particularly unusual case for me, because my job is about helping couples have a child. This is the first time in my career that I'm glad I didn't succeed." Brittany and Mark had no choice but to approach the Supreme Court. The devastated couple took their case to the Supreme Court and shared their terrible story. The court immediately voided Brittany and Mark's marriage, and their marriage was annulled. Her case prompted activists to fight to ensure that adopted children have more rights to know the identity of their birth parents. And Brittany and Mark aren't the only ones in this dire situation. The Brazilian couple Adriana and Leandro had known each other for 10 years. They had dated, married, and even had a 6-year-old daughter before finding out they were much closer than they originally thought. Adriana and Leandro had bonded because they did not know who their mothers were and had spent their lives tracking down their mothers. After a failed marriage, Adriana moved back to her hometown. That's when she met Leandro. You got it right away. Adriana and Leandro both knew that they had been abandoned by their birth mothers at a very young age. Adriana hadn't seen her mother since she was a year old, and it wasn't until she was 8 that Leandro learned that the woman he thought was his mother was actually his stepmother. You could never have known the terrible truth. Even when Adriana and Leandro got married and had a child, they never stopped looking for their birth mothers. Adriana was 39 years old when she contacted a local radio show called Radio Globo's The Time Is Now. The radio show specialized in reuniting lost relatives, so she asked her to help her find her mother. Adriana was overjoyed when she got the call. The people who researched and presented the segment had successfully tracked down their mother and wanted to reunite her live on the air. She had waited 38 years for this moment and couldn't believe it was finally happening. Little did she know that all of her dreams were shattered. On the big day, the radio presenters Adriana introduced their long-lost mother Maria. We thought it was funny that our two mothers had the same name, but it's a common name, so we thought it was a coincidence, Adriana revealed in an interview. When Adriana's mother revealed, live on air, that she had another child, a son named Leandro, Adriana felt her stomach drop. Yes, it could have been a coincidence that she and Leandro's mother had the same name, but that was different. I don't think you're telling me that, Adriana said through tears. Leandro is my husband. There was an embarrassing silence as both parties processed the message. But unfortunately it was true. The man she had been with for 10 years was her own biological brother. When she got over the initial shock, Adriana had another terrible thought. Adriana was afraid to go home after the radio show. She couldn't just turn off her feelings for her husband, she was so confused. But how would Leandro react now that he knew the truth? Now I'm scared of going home and finding out that Leandro doesn't want me anymore, she admitted. I love him so much. However, Leandro is still connected to his wife, even after hearing the terrible truth. At first we were really impressed with everything, but we had a family reunion and we told everyone we were going to stay husband and wife, whatever anyone might think, Adriana told Radio Globo. Of course it would have been different if we had known all this beforehand, but we didn't know, and we fell in love, said Adriana. We have so many plans together. Nothing will break us. Nothing.